So that looks pretty nice. So go to your render settings, this little camera here, and just turn up your render resolution to 100%. You can set that resolution to whatever you want. I leave mine at 920 by 1080 unless I'm doing like final render. That looks really good. But this isn't going to be a final render. Alright, so that right there looks pretty nice. Unfortunately, everything is kind of dim, and we do want to add some camera distortion effects. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of compositing. Now, compositing is adding camera effects, because cameras aren't perfect. They just aren't. So what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you a little bit about the node area. The node system in Blender, you can actually click on node, unless of course you're clicking on one of these, because that won't help. But if you click in a gray area, you can move the node. You don't have to right click, although that does work also. Or press G, that works also. Size does not work, neither does rotate. It just doesn't. But anyway, so we have our render layer here. Now, that's basically our scene. I'm not going to go into render layers right now. It's a little bit of an advanced topic, but that's okay. Now, to add a node, you do it the same way you would add mesh or anything else in the 3D viewport. Shift A. Now, we're going to add an output thing, and we're going to add a viewer. This allows us to see the background. And if you press V, that'll size down your background. If you hold Alt and press V, that'll size it up. I'm going to get it right there, just so I can see the whole scene. And the first thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add a little bit of a glare. Now a glare is under filter, and a glare node basically adds streaks usually. You can also add some other things like fog glow and simple star and ghost, but I don't use those very often. And I'm going to add a viewer for this, just so I can see how it's working. Now I'm going to turn the threshold down some. The threshold is how much light has to be shining for it to have streaks. Now there's not really much light in this scene, so you may actually have to turn this all the way down. Oh, you have to actually select the viewer. I'm sorry. We'll turn that up a wee bit. But you can see what I'm talking about. No, you can't anymore. Alright, so, you can actually see all of those right now. You can see glare on everything, which isn't what we want, but one is too big, so we're going to set it to 0.05. You can see that takes most of this twinkling stars out, which, although twinkling stars are good, they do obstruct from our scene, so it's not exactly our first choice. So now, the glare is done. So we're going to add a mix node, which is under color. And that just mixes two images with each other. Add a viewer node really quick from there. You want that set to multiply. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Screen is what you want that set for. I'm actually set the streaks up to 5. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. No, I'm gonna leave that actually at 4. I'm gonna turn the fade down a little bit. No. Alright. Actually, I might set that to mix. Yeah, mix. Because we actually are going to add some, make it look a little bit brighter at the end. Move that over some. Alright. So now we want to add a little bit of blur around those lights. Normally I would use a RGB curve first, but we want total control over our brightness and contrast at the end of the scene, so we're not actually going to use it with the blur. I'm going to add a viewer there. We're going to set this fast Gaussian. I'll set it to 20 by 20. Yeah, you can see, I mean, there's a little bit of stars in the background and stuff, but it looks pretty good. It's not too bad. So let's mix that in. Mix node. It's not right. Might say that's a screen. Okay. Excuse me, another phone call. Alright, I'm back. Oh, it's probably because I don't have a viewer selected. Alright, that's cool. Not what we were looking for. Mix. No. Screen. There you go. Screen. Yes. Alright, we're going to turn that down slightly. Yeah, something like that. 0.7. That looks good. Alright, so you can see we've already changed our image quite a bit from the original. Here's the new, here's the original. It looks quite a bit better, particularly. Now we're going to add something called a vignette. Vignette is a little bit of a blur on the outside, black blur. No, we're not going to add blur. We're going to add a distort lens distortion. And we're going to connect it to the render layer. We're going to turn that distort to 1. And now we're going to add a converter math node. Plug that in there. Change that value to 0. And make it greater than. And now we're just really quick add viewer. And you can see, oh. You can see that looks kind of weird, but okay. It'll look good. And now we're going to add the blur node in here. Filter blur. Plug that in there. Make sure this is plugged into the image. And we'll go to fast Gaussian relative. And set both X and Y at 20%. That just blurs it some. Gives it some nice black edges. So now we're going to mix that in. I'm going to move this all over some. Not set that to projector. That looks weird. Alright. So let's add a mix node again. Add a viewer node. And that looks really weird. It's probably because we need to set it to multiply. And you can see that's already darkening everything and doesn't look good. what we want to do is set that to like something nice, like a 0.4. Just so it darkens the edges slightly. Alright, now we're going to do our final thing. We're going to add an RGB curve. Now, add a viewer. RGB curve can do brightness and contrast. So you see, if I bring that all the way up there, shiny. Not exactly what we want, though. And if you bring it all the way down here, utter darkness. Not what we want either. So what we really want is we want to up the brightness and contrast some. So I'm actually going to probably bring it right here. Because that way we do get some, might bring it over a little bit. Yeah, kind of in the middle of that. Yeah, something like that. You can see those the colors of those stars are really showing up. So I actually might just turn down the mix for the glare slightly. And turn down the fade. Yeah, like that. So that looks good right there. I'm actually, I think, going to leave it at that and plug that into there. And you can see there's my final image. Yes, save that really quick. So that's it. That's your first major scene and second full-time scene. And you can see, although those stars are slightly large, some of them, it looks pretty good overall. Because some stars actually are that big. You can see it does flicker when I move, so it's probably one of the reasons why you might not want to use this for an animation. So that's all for this time. I'll start working on the next scene pretty soon. Have a tutorial up as soon as I can. See you.